At the Big E, there are two sweet spots where you can observe nature at work. Both exhibits from the Massachusetts Hampden County Beekeepers Association showcase the work of honeybees. This past spring, one of our own priests, Father Jack Sheaffer, the new pastor of St. Francis of Assisi Parish in Belchertown, built his own hive and began a hobby that he had long wanted to try. Videographer Bill Picosha and I visited Father Jack and his bees this past summer when he was still pastor of St. Mary's in Lee and St. Joseph's in Stockbridge to get an up-close and personal look at what goes into keeping bees.
Bees have been producing honey for at least 150 million years. Honey stored in airtight containers never spoils. Sealed honey vats found in King Tut's tomb still contained edible honey, despite over 2,000 years beneath the sands. This fascinating world of honeybee colonies has long intrigued Father Jack Sheaffer.
About 2 years ago, I saw a documentary on Bert Shavitz, who people know as Bert from Bert's Bees. And it's an interesting story, kind of a sad story. He actually has since died in his early 80s. But I watched that, and it just kind of lit that fire underneath me that I wanted to do this.
And this year, after much reading and research, Father Jack bought himself a hive and all the equipment needed to keep honeybees. On the summer day that Reel to Reel visited, he gave us a lesson on the ins and outs of what goes into maintaining a beehive, starting with the hive, and this particular style, the Waré hive, developed by a priest in France named Father Émile Waré in the early 1900s.
So the hive itself is from Seattle, came as a kit, so I had to put it together. And this is a box right here, and the whole thing is made out of cedar. And I opted to do it so that I could look in, just kind of check on things without disturbing them too much.
Now, besides the hive that houses the bees, there are important tools needed for inspecting and maintaining the hive.
Before you go into a beehive, you need to kind of keep them preoccupied. So we use smoke, and with the smoke, they have a sense that there might be a little bit of danger, but they're not panicking. But they'll go in and they'll make sure that they have enough nourishment, and they make sure that things in the hive are okay.
Of course, you need to be protected when checking on the bees, so we suited up from head to toe. Then we were off to see what the buzz was all about. First, we had to lift off the top boxes to expose one box filled with some very busy bees. Father Jack says he started his hive with about 10,000 bees, and in the height of the summer, it's expected that number will swell to about 45,000. On average, a worker bee will only make 1/2 of a teaspoon of honey in his lifetime. And bees must visit about 2 million flowers, traveling about 55,000 miles to make 1 pound of honey.
So what I really want to do now is I'm going to take out one of the larger of these combs and just make sure the queen is laying.
Father Jack named his queen Beatrice, and he says some parishioners tell him that his bees are Byzantine. But all joking aside, Father Jack says that this complicated and yet so simple system is all proof of God's handiwork.
You know, we see in Scripture that, God, knows about every bird and every hair on your head and whatnot. So, I certainly think God's hand is very strongly in the social system and the work system of bees and of all of us. I mean, this whole thing works together miraculously, I think, the whole planet.
The patron saint of beekeepers, St. Ambrose, Bishop of Milan, sums it all up perfectly. The fruit of bees is desired by all and is equally sweet to kings and beggars, and it is not only pleasing but profitable and healthful. It sweetens their mouths, cures their wounds, and conveys remedies to inward ulcers.
After I interviewed Father Jack, he had 2 incidents with some hungry bears, formidable foes of beekeepers, and unfortunately the bears won and his hives were destroyed. But Father Jack tells me that he does plan to get another hive and try again next spring in Belchertown.